Okay, so we have covered the prescriptive code. Everything in the prescriptive code is exactly that. It's meet it or you fail the code, you got to go a different path. And the different paths that are simple, ASHRAE has one that no one ever uses called ENVSTD, but because COMcheck is free, it's basically the exact same tables, and I think we're going to show you how to do that. So what are we going to say about COMcheck, Brandon? Anything you want to say about COMcheck? How much is it?
Simple, it's free. Again, some things that we're talking about, maybe spray foam insulation. Maybe you're not going to be able to hit those prescriptive values. We'll just look at how can we do some trade-offs. Maybe you've got some really good windows, so maybe you don't have to put as much insulation in your wall, or you've got a lot of insulation in your wall and you don't have to do as much in your windows. So it allows you some of these trade-offs.
So I'm going to launch COMcheck, and what we'll do is we'll show you that it's really useful for envelope. It's extremely useful for lighting, and it's of almost no value for mechanical. So I guess it'll print a thing. Okay. So when I launch it, it says, "Hey, you're in Georgia. Do you really want to be doing the Georgia code?" And when you look under code here, it gives you different versions of the ASHRAE 90.1 and different versions of the IECC. If you pick Georgia now, you'll actually be getting the Georgia 2006 code. You do not want to pick Georgia. We adopted 90.1 2007 outright, so you can just take that as your path, and you're good to go. You put in your city. There's about 5,000 cities in here. In Georgia. Any place with a post office, I think, has a city. But really, all it's going to do is, if I tell it Augusta, it's going to have the same answer as East Point or Decatur, or what's it really looking up? When I tell it Augusta, what's it looking up? What climate zone am I in, right? It's figuring out I'm in climate zone 3. Okay. You have the ability to put just text in here about Mike's shoe store, that kind of thing. So I've got a retail. You can put the designer and all that information in there. That'll show up on the printouts. Make this bigger. You also, we're going to learn more about lighting. I think I have to, maybe I don't have to do this. Do you have to do it? So I'm just going to tell it right off that this is a retail building. And it's 1,500 square feet. No, it's not 1,500. It's 50 by 70. 3,500 square feet. There's my beeper on there. Okay. But to do the envelope, you click on the tab for envelope. Can you all see this reasonably well? If you can't, you're welcome to walk forward. And you just start clicking on tabs and defining what's in your building. So I'm going to start off. I'm going to say I have a roof. You see the different options: a metal building, standing seam, screw down, attic, shiny roof, or just insulation above the deck. So I'm going to go with that one and pick R20. And the next one up is the walls. So when you click on walls, you got wood framing, steel framing, metal buildings, solid concrete, concrete block with insulation, concrete block, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Lots and lots of choices on this. Or you can build your own assembly. Okay? So I'll pick steel frame 16-inch on center. And what's the perimeter of this building? It's 50 and 70. Help me. 50 and 70 is 120, and then 240 feet around the building, right? And we're going to use a 10-foot wall. So 240 times 10 is 2,400. That's the gross wall area. Gross wall is different from, what does gross wall include? The glazing and the doors, right? So not net wall. You put the gross wall in. It'll do the math.
The key point on that, though, is remember it needs to be the gross wall area of your envelope. So if you've got a parapet wall, you do not add that. You're just going to go do it with thermal envelope.
So in this particular building, I've put R13 in the steel cavity, but I didn't put any continuous insulation. And I don't know, can you read that down at the bottom? How am I doing? Am I passing or failing right now? Because I don't have any insulation on the outside of it. I'm 5% worse than code so far. I haven't really described the whole building, but leaving that out. Whereas if I put an R3.8, I'm still failing code. I think I got to put windows in. Maybe it's R4 was what I was looking for. I thought it was R3.8. I'm failing code. Okay, so let's figure out why. That's probably why. Thank you. It's good to do things in front of people. There you go. Now I'm passing code. Thank you so much. 3.9, 4. Going with 4. Okay. So R4 is slightly better than 3.8. I'm slightly better than code. If you have a skylight, put that in. Inside your wall, you're going to have windows and doors. By the way, when it says interior wall, that's not, what that really means is like a demising wall in a strip retail between this unit and this unit. It's not every interior wall in the space, okay? And I'll put in the windows. So I'll just say these are metal frame storefront. This is just a descriptor. And we had 410 square feet of those. And I can pick a U factor, or I can right-click and take a default. So it looks it up in the code or takes a value. And the solar heat gain, I'm going to put, which one did you have up there? The first, actually, I'm going to go back. Yeah. Sorry, I want to make the one that you had. 5.2 and...
Solar heat gain, excuse me, 0.51 for the U factor and 0.52.
That was my bad, sorry. So I'm trying to use that first glass that we had, 5.1 and 5.2. And no overhang. Okay, so I'm not doing so great. And then I also have doors. I have some insulated metal doors in the back of the building that the employees use. So those are 40 square feet. And I'll just right-click and take a default. And see, one thing you notice is that I'm not really having to do very much typing. I'm not typing well, but I'm also not typing that much. And it's all built in. I'm going to pick door, and I'm going to pick the glass doors in the front of the building. I'll take clear entrance door, and those are also 40 square feet. And I'll right-click and take a default for those. And I'll put a default for that. And it came up with a 0.25. So what it's basically doing is it's looking at the entire envelope, and it's saying, you're doing pretty well on all these. Oh, I have to put a slab in. I'm sorry. I have to put a slab in. It won't change anything because slabs don't have to be insulated, but technically, to really be correct, you want to put a slab floor. Unheated means no radiant tubing. If you have insulation, here's how it's crediting you. Look at the perimeter of the slab, not the area, 240 feet. Okay, so at the end of the day, what it's doing is it's looking at the whole building, and it's saying, on average, your building right now is 5% worse than code. But when I put a projection factor and shade this glass, 0.67, all of a sudden now I'm actually 1% better than code. So the shading has a big swing on this because it's going to affect cooling, and it recognizes that. If maybe I can even back down on my overhang. Or maybe I can do a trade-off and knock this insulation down to 0. So here's an example of where I built a steel stud assembled building, and I did not insulate on the outside of the wall, but I traded off with a better overhang on my glass. Do you see how this works? So you can, in essence, borrow sort of from over here and put it over here. That's, in essence, what this software allows you to do.
So remember, this is, Mike is using the same example, same glass as option 1 that actually did not work.
Right, prescriptively, but we made it work here.
Probably some of that is we've got, if you look at this from a square footage percentage, we've got more roof area and less wall area. Maybe if that was a 5-story building, 3,500 square feet of roof area, but a lot more skin area, that might not work. But that's,
correct.
It's taking a look at, again, as Mike said, it's looking at the entire building, and so we can do some trade-offs.
You can also run some really nice compliance reports, which are great. And Gwinnett County, I think, is really big on COMcheck. They pretty much require it, which means they want to see it. So you can challenge them on that, but why? So here's an example of the compliance statement. It says where it's located. It tells me I've got 19% glass, and my floor area is this, and it shows the breakdown.
This is what, as a code official, this is the first thing you want to look at. This little green section. Envelope, packet, designed 0.3% better than code. So right there, you're like, oh, hey, we're in good shape.
We actually know some code jurisdictions were telling us that people have submitted some COMcheck reports and it says fails on it. And I want to challenge you to not do that, okay? I think that's an interesting little lesson learned.
So you've done, you put all this information in, and it's nice because it says that you can sort of see, okay, are these assumptions right? You can enter information in there wrong as well, but then all the mandatory provisions that we talked about, there's checklists. Hey, if I've got open, blown, or poured steel insulation, it's not in the ceiling that has a slope greater than 3 inches well. Check that. And then down at the bottom, you sort of said, yes, I've done this. This is affidavit. I've signed off, dated it, and I can submit this to you. If we've thought about all these things and we've done it.
And then the last thing that comes up is the certificate about air sealing, air leakage, and we're going to cover that real quick, and then we'll take a break for lunch. All right, the last thing that we really want to show is how to use COMcheck to do this for you. So let's see if I can pull some up here. So COMcheck. Again, I don't know. I hope, can you kind of see this as reasonably well? So on the first page up here, I said we're going to use the building area method. The first page, and that just says I've got a retail store. Here's the square footage. Here's the lookup, and it calculated that my budget is 5250 watts. That's what I get for lighting up my building. So you put in your lighting schedule. I've got some 4-foot T8 32 watts. They have an electronic ballast. They have 3 fixtures, 3 lamps per fixture, and I've got 50 of those in my building. Each one of those fixtures is 90 watts. And I crunched it out, and it said, okay, you just burned up 4,500 out of the 5,200 of your design. Okay. All right, well, I've also got some, let's say I've got some can lights. I've got some triple 4-pin 26 electronic ballast, 2 lamps per fixture, 52 watts. Oh, no, not 52 fixtures. 12 fixtures, and they're each 52 watts. And boom. And I'm 2% below budget. And I say, well, I really want to put in some of these beautiful halogens. They're so pretty, even though they're highly inefficient. So I'm going to put a 90-watt halogen in, and each fixture has, 1 bulb. And there's 5 of those. Each one is 90 watts. And all of a sudden, I just blew my budget. So those halogen fixtures are kind of hurting me in this example because I'm now 6% worse than, I'm 6% over budget. I'm at 5574 instead of 5250. So you can go back and redesign. You can take some fixtures out. You can say which ones are really hurting me. In this case, the halogen is pushing me over the top. Or I'm going to go back and I'm going to change. I think instead of doing the building area method, I'm going to do the space by space method. And so in this approach, it takes a little more work, but I go to my design and I say, okay, look, most of my building is retail. So I'm just going to say 3,000 square feet of my building is retail. And I'm going to add a thing here that says, I've got a lot of common spaces as well. I've got some storage area. Where's... help me, where's storage? I can't find what I'm looking for.
Active storage.
Thank you. That was so hard, wasn't it? And I've got 200 square feet of active storage. And then I've got some restrooms. And I've got 150 square feet of restrooms. And I got some office. Enclosed office. And I've got 150 square feet of offices. So the idea being that it does all the math for you. It took a little more work for me to create my budget here, but it was still pretty fast. I just put in the areas of each of those things, and it did the math. It did the lookup. And now when I go back to my design over here, what I have to do is, now my budget has increased to 5560. And so what it wants me to do is actually start putting these fixtures in each of those spaces to calculate the wattage. I'm just going to, for the sake of time, put them all into the retail area. So you just drag them down and drop them in. You could always break them up or something like that. So now you can see that, what am I missing? Anything? Well, the halogen wouldn't be in there. But, oh, darn. I missed it by crud. What I meant was to say was I only had 48 of these instead of 50. I'm sorry, I remember now. So bottom line is you can go through, you can play what-if scenarios, you can do trade-offs, but at the end of the day, as long as your design comes under budget, then you're in good shape. And if you have let's say, some wall washers or some sort of exempt lighting, you can take a bonus. Oops, how do we do this? If you can exempt some of these fixtures in your retail store because they're for food preparation equipment, you can pick that, or you can pick the allowance that says, I've got some pictures that are decorative appearance. Out of the 3,000 square feet, let's say that 200 square feet was being washed by these sconces, and so that gave me bonus wattage that pushed me over the top now. So all of this is built into COMcheck is the bottom line here. It's a great tool, it's free, and you do a very similar calculation over here on the exterior lighting side. And then when you're done, you go to print the report, and I'll turn that one on, turn that one off. And this is what it looks like. So it says, Code Official, here's my budget, 5760. Here's my design, 5394. I am in compliance, and it also prints a great little checklist that says, don't forget, exit signs have to be less than 5 watts per face. You have to have independent controls. Where's that thing? You have to, if the building's over 5,000 square feet, you have to have the automatic shutoff. You have to have voltage drop. We haven't covered that yet. So basically, probably the big thing would be the permit applicant, you're looking for this green line right here. Code Official, you're looking for this green bar that says your lighting passes by 6%. You sign it and submit it. So COMcheck does all your documentation for you, very quickly does all the math for you. How can we make this exciting? How much does it sell for today only? How much can you buy COMcheck for?
It's
still
$0.
free. Still free. Okay, so please use COMcheck. It's a great way to handle your compliance. Does anyone have any questions on this?